Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the second day of the Tournament of Champions in support of Pank 1. I'm Big Hungry Phil, and with me on the other side of the desk is Paulsable. Paul, good evening. How's it going?
Oh, it's always going good when we get to support tier 2, Phil. You know that.
Absolutely. And not only supporting tier 2, supporting charity as well. So, a good chance here to support your friends if you're here to watch your friends play and to support a heck of a good cause because, I'm looking at some of the stats I've had put in front of me, Paul, and we're looking at only 2% of research spending for cancer going directly towards pancreatic cancer as one of the most deadly forms of cancer currently in the world. So a chance to try and up that percentage is good in my books. And first up to help us do that, we're going to see Cratos playing off against Lunaris. And, you're the color caster, you're the guy with the facts and the information. What can we expect from these guys today?
Well, speaking of facts, it's a fact that if you hit !donate in the chat, you get to donate not only to pancreatic cancer, but also to the players you are watching today. Half that donation goes to the prize pool, the other half goes to Pank 1. But speaking of these two teams, Phil, as you were so beautifully, this is actually probably going to be one of the spicier matchups today. I mean, we're now in the second round, right? Yesterday, we saw a bunch of the invitation teams. We didn't really get any close matches yesterday. Most of the teams that made it to this second round in the winner's bracket did so pretty convincingly, and Lunaris is one of those. So they're going to have a much harder time up today because they're facing off against Cratos, who were ever so close to making the full-blown NA Contenders tournament next week.
That's right. They finished trials with a 3-2 record. One more map win, I think, in their favor would have seen them take that potential slot, or at least be in the running for a playoff for, or like a decider match to decide who was going to go up into that one. So yeah, very, very close there for Cratos. Of course, we're also in the middle of open division at the minute. And it's worth noting Cratos came into that as the number 1 seed, being the highest placed team at the end of trials that didn't make it back up into contenders. And they've had a pretty uncontested run through the bracket, but the same can be said of Lunaris. They placed at 5th seed, so the highest seeded team that wasn't also part of the most recent round of contenders trials had a good run here, and there's the potential that this is going to be the first of 2 matchups they may have this week, because it's not outside the realm of possibility that they're going to meet each other in open division next week too.
Yeah, so they get to test the waters right now, Lunaris. And I mean, if you're coming into this as Lunaris, you're probably thinking, okay, we are somewhat the underdogs, right? But I don't think we should undersell Lunaris because they are a very strong team. And primarily when I think of Lunaris' strengths, I look straight to their tank line. Pure has been nuts on the Sigma, and I always enjoy watching Bolby play. If you guys watched Open Division from a while ago, you might have known him as Best Bolby. He sat on the bench for a couple contenders teams for a while, but now he's back in a starting spot. And I think this guy has a phenomenal Reinhardt, one of the better Arisas in Tier 3 too. So I'm looking forward to seeing him match up alongside the rest of Lunaris into Cratos.
Yeah, I've got to be a little bit honest here, Paul. NA Tier 2, Tier 3 is not so much my scene as it is for EU. For those of you that couldn't tell, this is a British accent. I'm on the other side of the Atlantic, and so,
That's not Jersey?
Well, no, it's close.
What I know.
It's close. We have the original Jersey as part of the UK.
That's a good point,
it's not
actually.
New Jersey. That's the other one. But I'm looking through these players, and you've highlighted to me some players I should be looking out for on Lunaris. For Cratos, though, who are we looking out for here?
Cratos is kind of a well-rounded team, I would say, personally. The player that stands out to me individually is Default, because I've seen this guy's Widowmaker pop off a lot last year. But Cratos as a team, more generally, I think they just have really good synergy and honestly work together really well. They haven't so much been challenged in Open Division, but when it came to Cratos in NA trials, if I'm not mistaken, it was very much a feast or famine kind of thing. They won a lot of their matches pretty handily and then lost a lot of their matches 0-2. So I'm not willing to say it's a coin flip. I think it has to do with who's on the other team, whether or not they're able to get a read of the opponents or not. So coming into this first match, we're going to be starting off on Ilios, which I believe is Kratos' pick. So I'm hoping that they at least have a good read of the map if they haven't already been able to get some footage on Lunaris.
Well, it's not where we're starting, but there's the good chance here that we might go as far as Ruins, and if Default is as good on the Widowmaker as you suggest, we might see that coming out from him. But given the state of the meta at the minute, I'm kind of expecting we're more likely to see the Ashe here out of default.
Yeah, honestly, I'd say the entirety of Kratos right now is playing a default composition at the very least. Pun very much intended there, Phil. They're rocking out on the double shield, the Baptiste, nothing out of the normal for them. Lunaris, interestingly enough, hovering over the Zarya Winston dive. I have not been the biggest fan of Zarya Winston dives, seen it run by NA teams, because I feel like the Winston gets bubbled, and then the bubble pops, and then the Winston pops shortly afterwards. So I'm looking for some soft engages here from Lunaris. Don't overcommit at the start.
Well, speaking of commit, here we go. Already shields down now, and Pure up to high energy, but sadly low health and taken out of the fight, so now a big advantage. Over to Cratos, and Lunaris need to punch back incredibly quickly to keep themselves in the fight. You can see Light at the back here, tipping away, looking to find a pick, doing a lot of good here, just putting in pressure, but Default has a measure of pressure over and above what a Tracer can provide for.
And that whole fight starts because Kratos get that good read I was talking about. It is going to be a re-engage here, but the point has already been capped, so this is basically just drawing this out for Lunaris. It seems like Golby's actually able to live for a moment, but not very long. And like I was kind of saying earlier, these soft engages are just getting read really well by Kratos right now, because Volby will jump in. He was doing a soft engage, to be fair, like I wanted Lunaris to try, but once you pull back from that, you're incredibly vulnerable, and Kratos are just applying such heavy pressure right now.
This is really unfortunate. We've seen Light swap over to the Widowmaker to try and challenge Default, but Default and the rest are pushed so far up, there's nothing really that Light can do to get around the shields to find value with it. And look at the ults we've got coming online for Kratos. Both DPS ults more or less there, both tank ults more or less there as well.
Well, and I'm worried because Arakasu is building up to a Blade, that Nano Blade might just get dumped into this fight, where Kratos have 6 ultimates and can probably weather that storm. Lunaris hopefully should go for a drive fight, as Light is switched over onto the Echo, but I'm not convinced they will.
Well, out comes the Blade with a Nano Boost over the top. We're going to see him fluxed up here as well. Arakasu slammed back down again, and 2 ults thrown into that fight by both teams, and it's Kratos that come out on top once more.
I mean, you get 6% Lunaris. At least you got something on the board. That's nice. But what's not nice is, you use your biggest win condition in that fight. And that's 2 expensive ultimates, and you get 3. But Kratos is still sitting on 3 relatively powerful ones. A supercharged Dragon Blade still very much in the cards here for Maxwell, and Rally from Noctis, unless you start stacking the armor really early, probably isn't enough to negate it.
Yeah, difficult to slice through the armor once that is up to that full stack as well. But they need to make the move fairly quickly, because we're at 90% now. Final fight territory definitely for these guys. Arakasu looking for the punch in, can't find the pick, and out comes the Blade from Maxwell. Stacked with the bongo, finds the double, looking for the D-Mech. Can't find it, now has to deal with being batted around by the Monkey Volby, but that's going to now run down, and it is just the tanks left on the point. No contest available, and a 106 score here for Kratos.
Clinical Kratos thus far. I mean, honestly, they just played that round beautifully. They didn't overinvest ults. They knew exactly what they wanted to use before they went into every single fight, and it seemed like they were always one step ahead of Lunaris. Honestly, though, Lunaris, I think it's more of a composition thing for them right now, if anything. You saw Arakasu swap over to the Doomfist, and we've seen that a couple times. We saw it a couple times yesterday, at least. In Tier 3, a lot of the times, if it's last fight and the Genji player isn't near Blade, they'll just go, all right, I just need to get a pick. Let's go to Doomfist. But it's not as consistent damage. And when you're going into double shield plus Brigitte plus Genji, who can kind of just chase you and whittle you down, the Doomfist isn't really the right call. Now we're going to have a bit of a swap up. Arakasu moving over to the Widowmaker. This all comes down to a pick. Arakasu needs to get a pick early, because in an extended fight, you will absolutely lose running Lunaris' comp into Kratos.
We'll see the engagement come through here as Kratos are getting chased by the dive tanks of Lunaris. No picks out of that just yet, but have forced a lot of space. We'll see cooldowns come back and the re-engage now coming through from Cratos. Default being pressured by Light, able to get out and get back up to full health. Shield out already, and Bobby is able to find the first pick. Immortality field down now as well. We'll see Bobby trade it out on this one, but so far the picks are coming heavily in favor of Lunaris. The point not flipped just yet though, and Crowley's able to get the double. There's the opening flip, has gone to Lunaris, and it looks like with a bit of help there from Arexu, they're rounding this out in their favor.
And that all started with a beautiful anti-nade coming out from Sluggo. That's what enabled Gunther to go down, and then the tanks shortly afterwards. For the first time in this map, Lunaris now have a bit of control. How are they going to keep it, though? Because these soft dives only going to work so well, especially now that Default is swapped over to the McCree. He's going to be able to stun up the tanks, help punish Bolby when he dives on in. Pure is going to have to be a monster with the defense matrix and protecting Bolby all the time. Already look at Bolby's health. He's chunked down to half so early. He didn't even go in yet.
Yeah, and a lot of that given over to the ult charge of Maxwell, who now has the Dragon Blade ready to go. Currently not looking too healthy, but even just sending into the back to deal with the Widowmaker could open this wide open now for Cratos. In for sights up, so a little bit harder now for them to get in and find any value, particularly with 3 and then 4, 5 all down for Cratos, and Lunaris really punching back in this map.
They punch back hard, though, because they use 4 ultimates to do so, right? Now, Cratos are working up to ultimates of their own, and you're not going to have things like the Primal Rage to stall out or the Dragon Blade to punch through. We do have a disconnect, so hopefully we'll see a pause soon. I'm hoping. That's a self-destruct going in. The team fight's already started.
This is really unfortunate because they are down a player. It looked like we might have just been seeing Cratos hold back there and wait for the pause, but they are still in this 5v6. This is so difficult for them to push back. Maxwell has found the pick here with Bolby now going down. Has the blade still, waiting for the Anthony to come back out. Chased into the Alcove by the Vegeta taken down. And Cratos are still in the 5v6 at 96%. Looks like they're not really in with much of a chance here. Default looking to try and keep this alive that little bit longer, but both structures now down. Gunther down here, and Default a long way from Pulse Bomb, sleeping on the sidelines, taken out. Will Maxwell tag back in with the blade, but that's a lot of HP to slice through, and we're going to go see to 99-0.
And that's pretty unfortunate for Cratos, but they were in a rough position regardless of a disconnect. I mean, you know, it's hard to say, you know, oh, even with Pure, they wouldn't have been able to do that because, you know, 5v6. Mathematically, we can all crunch those numbers. We are going to get a pause there. So
there we go, finally.
Hopefully coming into this third round, we'll get an even slate for both of these teams. And although it was Cratos losing that 100-0, I do want to say that I still feel like Cratos has incremental advantages overall thus far when it comes to the discipline of their play. They're not over-investing ultimates as hastily as Lunaris are, and I think that can, in the extended series, will come back to bite Lunaris if they keep that up.
And I do wonder, looking at what we've currently got for Lunaris, we've got the dive here, and we have seen them run the runaway dive with the Zarya in place of the Diva. I feel like this is a much harder point to make that work because of how enclosed the actual capture point is here. It's very difficult to dive in and out of, get the high ground, retreat from the high ground again. And I do think like the more static comp with the double shield for Kratos probably favors them a lot here.
Well, and to be fair, I do like the adaptation Lunaris have made, moving Pure over to the Diva instead of the oh my word, the Zarya. Because you know, you talk about the runaway dive, right? And one of the reasons that we saw the Zarya come out for the dive was because Echo was very popular back when that was kind of somewhat meta. I won't go fully meta, but you know, a lot of teams were liking to run it because Diva's defense matrix doesn't do anything against the focusing beam, right? So you get Diva down to half health, and that's a free mech. That's a free pick, essentially. Whereas now, we've got Genji in the mix instead of Echo, which very much can be defense matrix for the majority of his team fights, right? I mean, you can't defense matrix a Blade, but if it's just base Genji, you're still getting good value out of the team.
Looks, guys, like we're going to have to throw to a quick break here while we try and get Pure back into
It's
the
Craw, actually. I
hopefully-
misspoke.
sorry, yes, quite right. Yeah, so sorry, we're going to throw it to a quick break, and hopefully we won't be too long. It shouldn't take us too long to get him back into the lobby, so please don't go too far.